Are we headed into the most legendary commodity super cycle ever? Today, we're going to be talking to Craig Parry. He's actually one of the founders of one of the huge uranium stocks that even made it on the major US exchanges now. That's NextGen. He's with ISO Energy, and someone that, isn't out making the media rounds, but someone who is, if not already, going to be one of those legendary type of financiers in the natural resource market to the level of a Rick Rule. Truly spectacular, two humongous uranium companies, all types of other ones. And he's actually been the mentor and partner to our first sponsor that we've ever had here on this channel. And that's my friend that you guys know lots of. That's Mike with Beasley Silver. Now, the two of them joined forces to create Beasley Silver, and we thought we'd do a special one today because this is an incredible opportunity from two very, very successful people in the mining business on seeing the opportunity in these commodity stocks right now. So we're going to be breaking down that commodity super cycle. Make sure you hit the like button on this video to send it out in the YouTube universe. Give us a comment down below that says go Beasley go. I know many of you are happy. Many mining stocks in the gold and silver space down a lot since the silver squeeze. Beasley up a lot during that same time. So give us that go Beasley go right there down below. And it's good to see you guys.
Good to see you, Jake.
All right.
Always good. Always good to catch up.
Yeah, it's great to catch up. So let's start with Craig here, right? So, all right, Craig, you're this incredibly successful financier and executive that's been in many mining companies, but two of the premier uranium companies. You're talking about thousands of percent gains that, you've been responsible for helping create for shareholders at the start of these companies. Now you're with Beasley Silver. I'm sure you and I could talk for an hour just about all these other companies I'm not even aware of you're involved with. But to cut to the chase, you've done incredibly well as an investor in the natural resource and commodity sector. And right now we're seeing energy crises, blackouts in China, blackouts in Europe. California has been having it forever. Warnings about electricity, mining shortages. Trudeau and all these guys saying in the next 5 years, every car is going to be electric. And I pull out my calculator. And when I try to calculate how much silver or other battery metals are needed, my calculator says error. And so the environment, not to mention the money printing, the environment seems perfect for someone like you kind of licking your chops at this. Give us an idea of what's going on and what has you excited.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, the things that have us most excited, of course, are any commodities at all. And of course, you've seen, as you mentioned up front, there's some extraordinary things happening. Thermal coal prices now at record highs. We've got copper inventories at record lows. You've got that European situation where natural gas has risen 10 times the price of natural gas there. So these are extraordinary outcomes, and we think that there's a hell of a lot more to come. I think that the commodity space generally is wound up as tight as a spring could possibly be, and we could see some extraordinary gains in all commodities here in the near future. Of course, on the uranium front, uranium last cycle around, uranium gave every other commodity a toe in. I think from 2004 to 2007, the uranium price ran from $9 a pound to $143 a pound. Today we've seen it jump from $30 to about $50 a pound. We're only just getting going on the uranium side of things, and you've seen some extraordinary gains, as you mentioned there. When we started NextGen back in 2010, we did the initial financing at 5 cents. Wow. It's now trading at $6. So you don't get, if you're lucky, you get a few 10 baggers in your life. Very rarely do you get a 100 bagger, but that's where we've gone with that one. ISO Energy, of course, we've taken that from about 25 cents a couple of short years ago, and it's now trading around $4.50 today. And I think the scene is set for every single company in the resource space to have those sorts of gains over the next couple of years. Of course, the thing that drove that last cycle, particularly for metals, was the urbanization of China. So really a pretty localized event in a sense. Of course, the driver now is the electrification of the planet. So it's a planetary phenomena that we're about to go through, and there just isn't enough metal out there to supply it. I'll give you an example. One of the things that we're working on here at Inventor Capital is a new nickel business. We're buying some nickel sulfide projects and laterite projects around the world. And the reason we love nickel is that the forecast is for demand in 2040 to be 19 times what it is currently. So, your backyard will be a nickel mine under that sort of environment. So you want to put your foot on as much of these things as you can, and that's what we're doing here at Inventor. And of course, silver fits the theme. Beasley Silver, we've got a heck of a lot of silver down there at our Panuco project, and continue to drill out more. We've got 10 rigs turning there at the moment. But so a few converging themes and ideas there. But the outlook is extraordinary for all commodities over the next 5 years.
So I want to get both your takes on this following question. But when you mentioned that data about nickel, I was thinking I'm going to start mining my pool, like with one of those like shovels like they used to do in the gold, try to find some extra. But, all of this is to say, especially you said, 100 bagger with next gen. And one of Rick Rule's famous stories, if you guys heard it, is his story about Paladin being a 100 bagger. And it's kind of like one of Rick's notorious stories. Why he has so much street cred among many other things, of course, but it's one of his good stories. Now you've had that with Next Gen and you've been around with a lot of successful companies. And I want to ask you, how do you think this market compares to the market that Rick Rule first made it big in, which was the 70s and 80s market, where he says it was like, money is raining down from the sky in this type of a market. And whenever I ask him, he always says, he talks it down, it's not going to be as good as it was then. So I want to get your guys' take. Is this going to be the most legendary commodities market? How will it shape up? Why and why not? Both of you guys.
Yeah, well, I'll give you my 2 cents worth. I think this is going to be much bigger because it is a planetary phenomenon. And of course, in the uranium space, a little bit different this time round. Uranium's been on the nose for many, many years, but you've now got some serious advocacy from around the world. I saw a survey out of France the other day that says that their nuclear industry has 85% support. Even Australia, which is very late to the party, 64% of Australians now support exploring a nuclear power sector and in industry. So, there's a growing ground. Even the founder of our dear friends at Extinction Rebellion, Zion Lights, is now one of the big proponents of nuclear energy. So, you've seen a transformation. We're building more reactors than the world's ever built before. So there's more of that to come. So I think, the fundamentals this time around are so much better than we've ever seen in the past.
All right, Mike, tell us. I mean, what's going on? How big is this commodities market going to be?
Well, the way that I look at it is, from the monetary money theory side, of course, too, which is now also a global phenomenon. So you have kind of unprecedented demand across the world. And then you also have this phenomenon of the complete and utter debasement of currency that you didn't have in the 70s and the 80s. So this is kind of cooking with fire in that sense. So, you have governments like the U.S. government printing money so that they can essentially prop up the demand for battery metals and infrastructure metals, of which, silver is one, uranium, of course, and nickel, copper, and tin. So, I think it's coming at it from all sides here. Whereas, as Craig mentioned, the last cycle was kind of purely driven by this, the BRIC countries. We don't even use the term BRIC anymore, but that was it. Brazil, Russia, India, China. It's become slightly irrelevant now. But what I think this will be kind of just the money printing and demand increase, and it'll be like something we've never seen before, I think.
Now, I'm curious, when you guys are discussing this conversation, Beasley Silver just raised like $70 million. You guys are, on par to your original word. The first time Mike and I spoke on the phone, he said, no, we're going to be a mine. I said, okay, and you guys have been very quick. You guys have been making it happen, but you guys just raised a bunch of money for that purpose. And so it kind of shows me two things. One is there's a lot of money that is interested, big investment money that's interested in commodities, silver, this renewable energy type of play, and the necessity of commodities. And so I'm just curious, does this conversation about the MMT and the currency debasement and the underfunding of these commodities. Does this come up in that conversation? Are you seeing more and more people realizing that this commodities market is a gold mine due to this MMT and this lack of investment in commodities?
So this morning I had a call with one of our kind of capital markets, the people that back Beasley and helped us, raise that money. And what he said, and he's directly talking to funds. He's not only talking to funds, but he's also brokering the transactions to buy Beasley, let's say, in the market, or buy other mining companies for some of the world's largest pension funds and things like that. And what he told me was that, it's been a couple months and everybody's back to play right now. So, I said, well, what's driving that? And he said, it's clear now that we're kind of in the very early stages of a commodity bull market driven by exactly that. Look, the debt ceiling, we're running into that problem again, and they just want to, expand that. These problems are so far from going away. And they're going to be so fundamental, that inflation driver to not only precious metals, but to all metals. And it's becoming clear to the institutions that invest in that now. So I think it's just all really starting to kick off now. And I think that's critical to the, to the investment paradigm that's happening right now.
Yeah, I might add there that and Mike's a keen student of MMT and what's going on there, and the fact that this inflationary environment we're in isn't transitory; it's here to stay. Probably going to get worse. But I had the great fortune of going fishing with Eric Sprott a couple of weeks ago, and they say you should never meet your heroes, but in this case, I was pleasantly surprised. What a wonderful, generous, beautiful human being Eric is. But so that was wonderful. But to sit there and listen to him talk about this for hours over a beer as we caught some salmon was tremendous. And he's convinced that silver's going to go to $100 an ounce at some point soon, particularly when you take out of this sort of manipulated COMEX trade, which of course JP Morgan was fined $900 million for being part of. Once that's gone, we're going to see some serious run up in silver and gold further than we've seen so far. So, I don't need to look much further than Eric because he's probably the most studied on that question.
And one of those questions that you asked me, Jake, I think in the past was, well, what's the point of, and this is probably at a certain level of kind of, we were all pretty frustrated with the silver price not breaking 30. And, now it feels like we've just had capitulation in the last couple of weeks. But, you asked, well, what's the point of investing in this if it is manipulated? And I kind of scratched my head a little bit and we went away and started thinking about that a little bit more. And what the conclusion that after speaking to some very intelligent people was that, markets are bigger than manipulation. And when that tide turns, when you have enough of that kind of critical mass from, a lot of these companies and investment groups that we're talking about, as well as even the short squeeze too, or the silver short squeeze too, that we've been hearing a little bit about, that can change so quickly and catch the kind of the manipulators offside. And I think that can change so rapidly. So, it could be a matter of moments here before that happens.
And, the other answer to that question that I asked you purely from your perspective as miners has nothing to do with the price of it and everything to do with the ever growing demand of it, the amount of silver that's needed. There's not a lot of silver mines coming online. They're harder to find, right? When me as a little guy that loves silver, I might get hung up on the price more. But when you are building a mine, high 20s is great, 30s is great, especially when you can produce a large mine and you're getting a consistent price like that. It's attractive with the amount of demand growing. Now, as someone who, without elaborating much, is not feeling great about the amount of centralized control and the lack of social order and economic order. And I think we're in the infancy of it. I'm looking at what are the quickest and best ways for me to, increase my net worth, increase my freedom, because I think it's really important. And so one of the obvious ways to do that is through mining stocks, and you find the right companies that you guys are, maybe a $2 stock on the US exchange, but even if the prices don't move, if you guys go into production, I mean, you could be at $10 stock, $20 stock without even the price movement. And that's what answers the question from the company side. And, Beasley is obviously one of those companies that I'm very excited about. You guys have done very well. I'm heavily invested in, and, I know a lot of the audiences as well. So give us an update on what's going on, because everyone wants that one stock, that can be that big movement. And obviously you guys have done a great job, but you've also been discussing about moving your mine online. Give us an update. What's going on with Beasley? What's the goals moving forward? Now that we have Craig on, I'd love to hear Craig's take also. We've heard Mike giving us so many great updates on Beasley, but I'd love to, what's the goal here? We're gonna get a producing mine here, or what?
Well, your viewers haven't heard me talk about Beasley Silver. I've been very, very fortunate. I've been involved in 5 or 6 major discoveries around the world. We discovered a coking coal deposit in Far Eastern Russia, the Arrow deposit in NextGen, Hurricane in ISO Energy. The most exciting project I've ever been involved in the discovery of is our Panuco field in Mexico, Panuco Capala. This is a massive silver district, and I think the market's really only cottoning on. Of course, we've only been drilling seriously there for the past year. We've got 10 rigs turning now. We're fast proving up a resource, and I think Napoleon's a monster. Tajitos is another big deposit in its own right. But the really exciting thing is when we get going and test more of the district, and I can tell you, wherever we put drill holes in other known veins there, we find mineralisation, we find all-grade mineralisation. It's going to be a very, very big vein field. And, I think that the potential there is, of course, we're at that stage that NextGen was at in 2013, 14, pre-resource. I think we were trading around 50 cents a share there. We put out our resource numbers and it very quickly went to $3 a share. And it's now $6. We're about to go through that inflection point here at Beasley Silver where people go, the light comes on, they realise how big this is. And the downside's protected by the resource base that we've drilled out so far. So to my mind, it's the most exciting thing I've ever been involved in. And hence, I continue to write big checks into the company and support the company as much as I can. Mike,
yeah, I mean, what more can I say?
So give me, and I always ask Mike, we gonna make this a mine? How long is this gonna take to make a mine? That's what we're looking for, right? To get that moonshot, right?
Well, and that's certainly that is coming. Nothing's changed in the sense that we still have the permitted operating El Coco mill, but what has changed outside of the production infrastructure is just kind of every drill hole that we get back, every update that we put out, we just realize that this is getting bigger and bigger, and the scale is so significant that we almost need to step back and look at how big can this be on the production front. So we look at the El Coco mill that we have, which is a permanent operating mill, of course, and I think that's a step along the way. It's a stop on the path to very large scale production. But if we were to look at how fast can we put this into production, the best answer is it can be done very quickly. We can't give it time frames because we need to put out a resource. We need to look at the economics of that. I expect that with a mill that's already built and very high grade silver, that the economics will be quite positive. But we need to look at that with an independent study. But truly the pathway is there, and the pathway is there unlike any other company really in the space. So I know it's always frustrating. People ask kind of the timeline.
Right, you got to give me your goals. I've heard since I told you the first time Mike and I ever connected on the phone. He told me the whole vision, and it must have been in end of 2020 maybe. And
it was around Christmas time.
Yeah. Okay. And Mike said, here's the vision and everything like that. And, you guys have had a lot of progress since then. And I really believed in Mike and when he said that, but you guys have made a lot of progress. Do you have the shared goal when you say, you worked on all these big companies, you've done so well. When you say this is the most exciting project that you've been working on, I would assume it's because you have the same shared vision and goal to make this a producing silver mine.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, everything I've done in my career to this point has been with the assumption that we'll be building the mine and operating the mine, and we've got the people to do it. We've done this several times before. And Mike's relatively new to being a CEO, but is doing a tremendous job. I think he's, I predict that Mike will one day be seen as the Elon Musk of mining. He's got that sort of capability. So, our intention is absolutely bring this thing into production. Of course, it will be of great attraction to some of the majors and producers as we drill the thing out. But that's not our intent. I'd love to see my grandkids getting dividends off the project.
Powerful. So you got to tell me then, Craig, you backed a lot of people, you funded a lot of projects, and I know Mike's story. Like you said, he's a little on the younger side of being the CEO of a company, raising $100 million. And, I know kind of a little bit the story of how you guys met, and I know obviously how well you guys have done now, but tell me, what about it, out of any, it seems like you're the type of person as a financier, you can almost pick who you get to work with. What did you like about Mike, and why do you think Mike's been able to move the needle forward so well?
Yeah, good. Look, it's a bit of a long story, but it's worth telling. Mike was working on a deal that fell over, and we'd only recently met, and I think you were a bit forlorn one day, and said, wanted some advice and some mentorship, I suppose, for want of a better word. We had a coffee, and I said, well, have a think about the commodities you like. And he said, well, I really like cobalt. I said, okay, well, let's meet for a beer. And we met for a beer at the Cactus Club Cafe here in Vancouver and in Bentonville. And that was about 4:00 one sunny Tuesday afternoon. And I said, well, okay, you like cobalt. I like the look of cobalt as well. How do we get a project? Have you got any project ideas? And he said, yeah, I do. Well, how do we get them? And he said, I need $7,000 to stake some ground around this old mine. I said, okay, well, how long will that take? And he said, well, if I had your credit card now, I can do it. So I gave him a credit card. And within, I hadn't even finished that first beer. Mike had spent $7,000 on my credit card. We'd staked all of this ground. I then gave him another $120,000. We sold that all for $15 million 12 months later. And I thought, my God, this guy's a force of nature. So, and we've been locked at the hip ever since.
I knew the gist of the story, but I didn't know the whole story. That's fantastic. Yeah,
but he just continues to deliver. It's been great to watch.
Yeah, that's the same kind of feeling, because we got a big channel, and you guys are obviously the regular daily interview show sponsor, and a lot of people wanted to sponsor. And when Mike and I talked, I was just like, I don't know. I have a feeling he's going to be right on his vision. And as we kind of wrap up here, and move away from Vizsla, move away from commodities, I want to get both of your guys' takes on what's something that a viewer can do, or some of the important things a viewer can do to ensure their freedom, their financial freedom, and the success of their business right now in these crazy times. What do we do to get our financial freedom, take our business to the next level? Obviously, you guys have both done this quite well. What are important things for you guys?
Well, I think a lot of it is just keeping your mind in a place where you can kind of react, with clear mind to challenges that come up, because inevitably there's just going to be challenges. That's just the way, when we sat down in the boardroom when COVID started hitting, that was right before we made our discovery. We thought, well, this could go a couple ways, and it wasn't because we were, smarter or better than anyone else. Really, it was just that we took the time to kind of prepare with like a clear mind and understand what our options were, opportunities were, and then kind of move diligently towards the agreed outcome. So in a lot of ways, it's I often see people kind of react to things where they panic, or they get overwhelmed by certain things, instead of kind of taking a step back and just taking in the situation at hand. Because I'm going to butcher this, but it's really not over until until you quit when it's over, basically, right? And so you just got to keep kind of the ability to look at challenges and opportunities clear.
Mm-hmm.
Mike, the poetic ending to that is when the fat lady sings. It's not over.
That's right.
Sings. So, Craig, you've financed a lot of people. Some have probably done great, some haven't. And just being in Vancouver, you're around a lot of people that probably are like, hey, I want to be like you, Craig. What do I need to do? And they tell you they're going to do all these things. You've spent some time now with Eric Sprott. Who's pulled in the many millions and the not so many millions. What do you think are the common success principles or qualities of an entrepreneur that succeeds, or investor?
Yeah, look, I think there's a few things there. You need to find or work with people who are, firstly, very good at their day job, technically or financially, whatever their speciality is, they need to be very, very good at it. They need to be passionate about it. Mike, you see that with yourself, Jake, with all the success you're having. Your passion shines through. So that, and that's what gets you out of bed on tough days when the markets aren't going the way you thought they would, or your projects aren't going the way you thought they might. So those key qualities. And at the end of the day, what I personally like to do when I invest in projects is back the jockey. It doesn't matter what their project is, they'll always find the best projects. The best people will get the best projects no matter what happens. So focus on those people. And one of the things, a principle that we hold dear to our heart is finding, hungry, brilliant young people who are willing to work 18-hour days, 7 days a week, and being generous with them. And, that's what's probably setting us apart at the moment. We've lived by those principles, and we've got a team here that have been, it's been the Canadian Thanksgiving long weekend here over the last 3 days. And most of us have worked at least 6 hours each of those days. And some of the guys in here have been working 18-hour days over the weekend. Finding those people that are willing to go the extra mile, and aligning yourself well with those people and being generous towards them, that's what's setting us apart at the moment, I think.
Okay, on a personnel standpoint, how do you find someone like that? I think there's a lot of people, that listening, they got their entrepreneurial project or little business, and maybe they're doing everything on their own. And even in my business, it's always been the hardest part, to be honest with you. Mm-hmm. So, you've done a lot of these companies. How do you get the most out of someone, and how are you able to bring the right team together?
It's a bit of an organic network. We very rarely use recruitment consultants or anyone like that. It's usually just talking to the team, and invariably, someone knows someone who's doing something very well somewhere, and then inducing them with equity options and potential, rather than just a job where they're going to get paid well. Making them an equity partner in everything you do. That's how you get them across and keep them engaged.
Shared values and alignment, I think, is key. Right? But yeah, that is the hardest thing. We've got, obviously our focus is on creating value for Beasley Silver shareholders. That's why we spun up Beasley Copper, and we continue to kind of, add value there. But, in addition to, steady network and steady stream of projects, the hardest thing for us to find, and we do have a bit of a steady stream of it, is good, hungry young people that want to come in and be aligned with what we're doing. That's definitely the challenge.
All right. So each of you guys, give me one thing right now that you're most excited about whether it's with Beasley Silver, Commodities. Give me one thing that you're excited about.
Well, I'm most excited about a resource that's coming out in first quarter of next year. I mean, that's going to be a game changer. It's just it's just such an incredible project, and the progress that we've made, the work that the team has done, the skills and the ability that the team has put into growing Panuco and growing Napoleon into Itos. I'm really excited about that. So that's a Beasley specific thing, and I think that we might just be lucky enough for early next year the commodity space to have already exploded.
Yeah, I'm not far off that either. I think next time we chat, Jake, we better talk about the copper price, because I think we're going to see $15 a pound copper at some point in the next couple of years. But that aside, we've got 10 rigs turning there at Panuco at the moment. So Beasley Silver, the news flow over the next few months leading into that resource is going to be massive. So you're going to see some exciting results coming out of the project there. I think with 10 rigs turning, it's a massive drill program, one of the biggest, if not the biggest, in the world at the moment.
It'd be big for a major.
That's awesome, guys. Yeah, congratulations on everything. For everyone listening, we're going to have Craig back on again here. We're going to record again in about 2 days, and we're going to be diving deeper specifically into uranium. And, we've got an opportunity rarely to be talking to someone who's really seeing what's going behind the scenes in the uranium market. So stay tuned for that. Give us a comment down below with any questions. We'll link in the Beasley Silver website for those that are not a shareholder of Beasley and want to check it out. Trades on the OTC and in Canada as well. Anything you guys want to say to wrap up?
Well, no, just thank you for having us as sponsors. But we appreciate working with you, and it's always good to catch up.
Yeah, Ned, we got to do this again. This group conversation is fun.
Yeah,
absolutely. No, and congrats on your success too, Jake. It's been great to follow you and see what's happening there.
Yeah, well, I'm really looking forward to diving into the uranium here. So we want to thank Beasley Silver. We had Mike and Craig here today. We'll link all their Twitter, socials, all that type of stuff with Mike, Craig, Beasley, all that down below as well. Thanks for watching today's episode. Give us a comment down below that says "Go Beasley, go" right there down below. And make sure you hit that subscribe, bell notification, and like button to send this out into the YouTube universe. And we will talk to you soon.